And Nirav, if you need to, do any voiceovers on me, make sure it's a male, not a female.
Noting that down right now. Model 1 and Bambi present NEMT experts, John and Larry. How you doing?
Great. How about you?
Awesome.
Never been better. John, you want to give a quick intro of yourself and Model 1?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. John Maselli here, National Director of Van Sales for Model 1 commercial vehicles, located on the East Coast, but we cover the entire country. It's a company. We have 25 locations. We offer service, parts, financing, the whole bevy of products and services, and a lot of vehicles on ground ready to go. So good to be here, though. Very excited. Thanks again.
And Larry, you are a customer of both Bambi and of Model 1. We're going to be talking about your experiences with both of our companies today. But to start off, can you give us a quick background about yourself and your journey into the NEMT world?
Sure. Once upon a time in prehistoric days, I started a transportation company in Atlanta. It was luxury transportation, and did that for 29 years in Atlanta before I came down to Florida. Started a luxury transportation company here in Florida, small, 2 vehicles. Today we now have 38, and about a year ago we started looking into the NEMT transportation as another avenue, an offshoot of the luxury transportation business. Learned a little bit more about it, and as we got about a year ago, started getting interested in it, started attending the NEMT conference, found out more about it, and we really got up and running the beginning of this year. And we did start with, I believe we got 2 vehicles from John, and we now, like I said, are up to 17 in 6 months. So it has really grown, and we're excited to be in this area of transportation.
So Larry, you and I met last year at the NEMT conference in Jacksonville, Florida. John, that's where you and Larry met as well, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So Larry, we had met through our mutual friend, Howard Berkowitz, and that was, I guess, the beginning point of you moving into the NEMT world. Can you talk us about the journey from the NEMT conference up until now? Like, you started out with 2 vehicles, NEMT. How has it been? How have you grown the NEMT side of your business?
Sure. So starting back with the NEMT, that was my first time attending. Didn't know what to expect. Kind of walked around, saw booths, saw Bambi set up. Model 1 was there, and John and Joe attacked me. No,
Absolutely.
they said they had a vehicle that they had outside for me to look at, and we had no vehicles at the time yet. So we went out, took a look, went over to their location in Jacksonville to see the operation, and really liked the vehicles, and went back, went several of the seminars, learned more about the ins and outs, because I do know luxury transportation, and one of the things in luxury transportation it teaches you to do, if you're going to ever survive, is the journey is doing everything right. In the luxury business, you better be on time, you better get people where they're going, and you're only as good as the last pickup you do for them. It's probably like going to a restaurant. If you have a bad experience, you're probably not going back. So as we were embarking on the NEMT side, we decided it's the same thing. You want to be on time, you want to have good drivers, and most of all, especially coming from the luxury side, nice vehicles. So we started right down that path from the very beginning. We bought several vehicles from Model 1 from the beginning. That's how we got started. And basically, our first 4 vehicles right off the bat came from them. 2 right then, and I got 2 quickly after that, and then another 2 soon after that. And we just, they have been great. So the key to what we think we did right was we impressed people with the on time, the level of driver, and the combination really resonated very quickly with everyone. I didn't know a lot of people in the industry, but when we started making contacts with different companies and, whether it was brokers or private or whatever it was, we approached them with that same philosophy. We're going to be there when we tell you we're going to be there. And we're going to show up in a vehicle that you're not going to be, unhappy getting in.
Mhm.
So that is the path we took. And as like I said, within 6 months, we had 17 vehicles. And well, from January to now, we probably went up almost 600%
Wow.
in growth. So,
That's a lot of percent.
Yeah.
and whereas right now we are looking to expand even more, but we wanted to do it methodically. We wanted to make sure we learned the processes. We wanted to learn the ins and outs first. And we really took a path of starting slow, ramping up quickly. And now we really do. And with the aid of Bambi, as I told you from the beginning, Bambi helped us grow incredibly because my dispatchers were doing 130 trips by hand. They were literally writing them down on a piece of paper and assigning drivers to them and whatnot because we just didn't have a good enough software system to be able to do what we needed. Now, from the livery side, that's what we used too. We had a dispatch livery system, but it's not for NEMT. It was for luxury. So I was used to having a software solution that helps you grow. And Bambi turned out to be that solution for us. And thank you for that, because I was, and we'll probably get more into it, but I had a couple bumps in the road along the way to you. And when we found you, we were very happy and satisfied. So,
Well, we're going to have you sing more praises of Bambi a little later, Larry. I want to start off by, can you just give us an overview of Emery Coast Luxury Transportation? How many vehicles do y'all operate with right now in NEMT? Where do you operate? What kind of trips do you do?
all right. So when you add the Emerald Coast Luxury Transportation and Emerald Coast Non-Emergency Transport, so we've named them those two, we have 37 vehicles now. And oh, by the way, I came down here to half retire and just never get something larger than I was doing, because we were up to 70 vehicles in Atlanta back when I was up there before I sold out. But we do everything. Start with luxury. Luxury transportation is your airport pickups and drop-offs. It's your weddings and, it's funerals. It could be dinners out, corporate groups, shuttles, employee shuttles. It can, and literally the theory, what we use, our motto is, if you can think of it, we can do it as long as it's legal. So as we branched out into non-emergency, we do anything right now other than stretchers. But we do have the capacity, with the aid of the 2 new vans we got from John, to do stretchers, and they are outfitted for them. So that is the next area we're looking into expanding. But I did want to get down ambulatory and wheelchair first before we got into stretcher. So we do from the dialysis to discharges to the pain management clinics. We go from here. We've been to Miami from our area in the Panhandle. We've been down to Tampa. We go to Gainesville. We have people who are doing, appointments all over the state. And so we've evolved into that as well. So we can pretty much handle anything having to do with NEMT, other than we just don't do the stretchers yet. We do hospice. We do, like I said, going back, the hospital discharges. And, we have a lot of regular clients who day to day go to their appointments and, back home every single day. So.
Okay. You do it all.
We have to do it all, because my theory has always been, if we don't do it, someone else will, and I'd rather have the business.
For sure.
John, if you don't mind me helping to toot Model 1's horn a bit right now, Larry, when you were buying vehicles, I mean, Model 1 is not the only company out there that sells the kinds of vehicles that you would need. Why did you choose Model 1 to buy vehicles from?
That's simple. It was customer service and it was relationship. And by that, I mean, I checked all over. I didn't just come to these guys first. Matter of fact, I checked several companies prior to even the NEMT conference last year. And, they had, this, but I held off buying anything because I didn't know the good from the bad at the time. What I did learn at NEMT, and it's very much thanks to these guys at Model 1, what was better and what was not better. The extra things that they added to just even like a Toyota hybrid, with straps that are stabilizing, helping pull up wheelchairs into the back of a vehicle. They were really outfitted exactly what I would have anticipated wanting, and not going inexpensive. I was not looking for a 6-year-old, 7-year-old vehicle. We were looking for new. I wanted, maintenance is a huge thing in the obviously transportation, area. And knock on wood, and probably jinx myself here, but we've never had a single problem with one single vehicle we've gotten from John.
If I can just jump on the bandwagon there, Larry, so you're not the only Bambi customer of ours who has bought vehicles and had relationships with Model 1. I can say, from my experience talking with people who have bought from Model 1, they're about relationship building. John Maselli and the entire Model 1 team, they build relationships with NEMT businesses. Not trying to push anything on you. They help you find out what you need, and they get you the right thing. That's what I love about them, and that's why I love partnering with Model 1.
Well, first of all, thank you both. I appreciate the kind words. Larry, I appreciate the business. I think back a year ago when we met, and it seems like first of all, it was yesterday, but it was a year ago. And, I remember you telling me the exact story, luxury, thinking about getting into NEMT, and you were clearly at the right conference for that. And we're happy that we got to talk to you. I want to give a shout out to Joe Riley for, obviously handling you in your account on a more day-to-day basis and providing the vehicles. Interestingly enough, that venue, much to our chagrin, we weren't able to bring vehicles to that venue. And one of the things that we like to showcase, aside from ourselves, is the vehicles that we sell. We partner ourselves with the best manufacturers out there who really understand the needs of the end users and incorporate solutions into the product. And so Joe was smart enough. He brought the Toyota Sienna, which was a Brawnability rear entry ADA Toyota Sienna, an amazing vehicle in many different ways. And he threw to the porters up front, to the folks up front that were doing like valet, he threw him $20 and said, "Hey, I want to keep this vehicle up front so I can bring it down to customers." Smartest move for the whole show. And that really helped a lot because we were able to really present one of the best solutions out there that we can offer, especially to somebody who's who's new or looking to get into the business, right? And that's our thing. We're not saying that's the only vehicle you have to buy or the only vehicle that we sell, but it's a great starter vehicle and it could last you for a long, long time. And obviously you bought a few of them, so clearly they're used well and customers like them. So yeah, I mean, our big thing has always been being able to just talk to our customers, make them aware of pros and cons of different vehicles. I think an important point you made, Larry, is maintenance and downtime are obviously the biggest killers of your industry. And every day a vehicle's down can cost you a lot of money, right? I tell my customers, like, hey, the vehicles that we sell are basically your business with four wheels on them, right? So you got to keep those wheels rolling all the time for you to be successful, for you to hit, your goals, whatever they might be. And that being said, buying something new, buying something reliable, buying a good conversion. The Braun conversion is brilliant. Like you said, it has the electric front retractors. I mean, it just makes the driver's life easier. And that's a big thing, Larry. I'd be curious to kind of know, what your thoughts are on retaining drivers and the importance of having good, new, safe, clean vehicles, not only for your customers, but for your drivers as well. Would you mind speaking about that?
Sure. We do vet our drivers, when we bring them in. The first impression to me is always a lasting one.
Mm-hmm.
I really go with first impressions. If they walk in our door and they're not smiling, or I can tell they kind of might be a moody person, or maybe it's even down on their luck. I don't, just they're there, but almost like they looks like someone made them be there, versus they're walking in the door. So when we vet these guys and gals, we basically go down the path of this. No matter how bad of a day you're having, I guarantee you the people we're picking up are having a worse day. You are helping people in this business, and there's a lot of satisfaction from that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go, we train them. And if we see anything in training, we had one driver going up one of the ramps and she fell off the ramp. She was training. She didn't even have anybody yet. I'm like, well, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just an example. But we go get them certified. They take their classes. How excited are they to get started? And we've had several, probably 80% that we didn't want, but we're not going to hire just anyone because we have a lot riding on this. We have the vehicles, we have these customers. We've found out a lot about the previous providers
Mm-hmm.
that probably helped us to enter the market. And it's always someone else must have not been doing something correctly for someone new to get into it. And so we use that as examples, and we do that. We have drive cams on in every vehicle, and we randomly watch what's going on in the vehicles every day. I've got 3 dispatchers starting at 3:00 in the morning, all the way up till the end of the day, and assigning out the next day. And so we take the time to look what's going on. And if we ever see something scary, it could be their job.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing we do is we provide them with basically full-time jobs. We have enough business that we basically can run 17 cars, with each driver getting 40 hours a week. So that helps, because, when they're part-time, not so much do they care as much, because they're not really totally making a living doing it. But when it's their job, they do take it more to heart and they try harder. And then losing a job like that means more than if they were getting 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week. because that probably wasn't paying the bills to begin with. We also, one of mine is I probably am one of the highest payers in the industry. And I've heard stories about, how much other companies are paying these drivers because we get a lot of them interviewing with us. And they're about 20% less than we pay. So we want the best of the best. And I'm willing to take a less profit to have a more successful business, as long as we're still profitable, obviously. But it really, that combination is, if someone feels that they're being treated well, they do their job better. Bottom line.
Awesome. Love it.
Now, I will say one more thing, and I was going to plug John a minute ago, but I was going to tell you about one quick experience that just to show you how good Model 1 is. When I got our most recent contract, I needed a bunch of vehicles very quickly. And our last 2 vehicles from John, I called Joe up. I said, Joe, got to have these vehicles in a week, maybe 10 days at the most, because we got to get them, the graphics put on. We need to make sure everything's all set up, inspected, and we're ready to go at the outset of this, this new contract. And he goes, we'll get them to you. And sure enough, even with a little bit of delay on our side, just because the banker couldn't get his wire out on a Friday, got out on Monday morning, we had those vehicles here before that contract started, and exactly what Model 1 promised is what we got. And it's very rare that you can get anything done in a week to 10 days buying a new vehicle. Yeah. It's not easy, especially when they're out of state and they had to come and be outfitted down in, I think, West Palm or Fort Lauderdale, I think it was.
Yeah, Davie. Yeah.
And then come back to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I said, Joe, look, I can send drivers up to pick these things up. He goes, no. He goes, we will have them to you when you're supposed to have them, but we want to do our complete check, pre-check on it before you take hold of it. And that's the kind of company Model 1 is. They weren't going to deliver me some before they were sure that it had everything it was supposed to have.
Can't get better customer service than that.
No, it's you know what? It's what makes my life easier, and so it's been a very good relationship, and we really have appreciated it, because between John and Joe and Matthew, I didn't know any of these names a year ago. I didn't know Matthew, and then I kind of feel like we're all family now. So,
well, we love that. We love that. Thank you.
I got to share a Model 1 experience, my favorite one. So one of our Bambi customers, Sam Harris of On Time, On Target Transportation, he loves the Model 1 guys. How many vehicles has he bought from Model 1? 0. He's known the Model 1 guys for, I think it's been more than half a year, hasn't bought a single vehicle from Model 1, but loves Model 1 because he's thinking about when he might get a next vehicle. And the Model 1 guys, they bring him into the shop, they educate him, they talk to him, they build a relationship with him. Whenever he wants to buy that next vehicle, he knows these are the guys for me, right? Like, they're there for me whenever I need it. They're not pushing anything on me.
So how about this for a testimonial? You'll like this. And Nirav, if you need to, do any voiceovers on me, make sure it's a male, not a female.
I'm putting that down right now.
Yes.
Just for you, Larry.
Because I don't drink Bud Light. I just want to. So anyway, so I have a client. He's a wheelchair client.
Yeah.
And he had a problem where it's one of those where he goes to an appointment at one building for dialysis. He goes to another building for other appointments, all in the same parking lot. Okay. So one day they couldn't find him, so we ended up getting cleared by the client to leave because we couldn't find him, but we were in the building next door. But when he calls me, he goes, that can't happen again. I can't sit outside of a place for like an hour or whatever it was. And we did go back and get him, but He goes, but I love your drivers because your fleet is the nicest fleet of vehicles that, and all of our wheelchair vehicles are from you guys, all of them. And he goes, your fleet is just so much nicer than everyone else's. The vehicles are great. He was more going, I'm not leaving you. I want you to know that. And he goes, but, you know, could you just tell them to make sure they verify the street number or whatever. But one thing, and then he calls a couple of weeks later about driver driving a little bit too fast, right? But he repeats again how nice the vehicle is. So how's that for a testimonial?
Yeah.
I'm not the guy who spends so much time looking. If I go to a dealership or I'm going to buy another car, I already know what I want. If when you've bought, like I said, 37 vehicles, you know what you want, where it is. You know, we go to shows and to see what is new and what is out there. And which brings me to the next point. I'm also on the executive board of the Florida Limousine Association. We recently just had a show down in West Palm, and Model 1 was one of the exhibitors at it. And so what I have, and John and I haven't talked to you, but I must have had 25 operators that are asking me to come down to South Florida to tell them, teach them about NEMT.
Wow.
And because all they hear is, oh my God, this is a good another business. And, you know, look, in luxury, you have off periods of the year. You don't in NEMT. You're year round.
Mm-hmm.
And so all these companies, I said, sure, you fly me down, take me a dinner and another dinner. And I said, I'd be happy to, you know, you can even call me. But I said, look, the first step in this is know who your resources are.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring up Model 1 and I walk them over to their exhibiting area over at the show and say, this is where you start. I can tell you about the business and everything else, but just like you buying those luxury vehicles for your luxury business, you know, don't think of NEMT being as a low class, you know, disgusting Uber Lyft type of car. I like how I plug that, versus luxury. And, but you're gonna have the same mentality going into NEMT that you have in the luxury, you know, arena. So you're going to start off successful. That is it. You know, start with your resources. And these guys are there. They have a lot of locations and it's easy to get to. Matter of fact, I was in New Orleans about a year ago or so, and I'm driving back and I looked to my left and right off the highway, they had a location sitting there. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And so it has been really easy to work with. But again, those people getting started, how do you get started? That's what everyone wants to know. And, you know, I said, just do things right. You know, don't cut corners. If you're going to worry about your expenses from the day you start, you're probably not going to be all that successful because it takes money to invest to get set up. And you imagine buying 17 vehicles, you know, just for NEMT. We know the insurance is just off the charts. And, you know, it increases your fuel bill because these vehicles are rolling. But that's still part of it. Same thing you're going to have in luxury. You're going to have insurance. You're going to have fuel costs. But if you're going to get in this arena, treat it like it's a luxury business as well and just another avenue of it. And that would be my advice to anyone getting started. And like I said, I told anybody they would love to chat with me or have me come and sit down with them, or they can come up here and see the operation. I'm happy to share it with them. I have nothing to hide. You know, we just are going to continue to always do the right thing. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Other people must have done the wrong things for people to slide in because there was a big need for companies doing it the right way.
Mhm.
And there still is. I mean, it's ongoing. So, but again, resource wise, this is where it starts. The vehicles. I can go put ads in, I can get drivers, if we don't have vehicles, we don't have a business. So, and make them reliable and good customer service and making it easy to get them is just paramount.
Yeah. Oof. I mean, mic drop right there, right? I mean, that's just
What do we even
amazing.
ask you?
Hold on, it's my phone. Okay, just kidding.
No, I love that stuff. I love everything you said, Larry. I mean, going back to the beginning of your experience, trying to work within a contract, that's one of the most important things out there to us, right? You work hard to get these contracts. We want to help you start them right on time without any hitches or delays. And look, it's never a perfect transaction. Things will happen, but we're here to react quickly and make good on it so that you have what you need on time. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Another thing is the used car market is still not like it used to be. In other words, people are holding on to their vehicles longer. The cost of new vehicles has gone up, admittedly. So people are holding on to their vehicles for longer. And then when they trade them in, they're less desirable. Again, I've told plenty of customers who are starting up, you could buy used and you could save some money, but at what cost, right? I mean, it's cliche to say, but cheap can end up being expensive. You're going to give that money back oftentimes on the back end as opposed to up front, right? So if you really want to do it and start this type of business up, why would you bring more potential issues to your business that will affect the business and your profitability and all of that. So I love that. I mean, so yeah, you can get used vehicles. I would just be real careful with what you get, and especially your first vehicle. I would always start off with something new. You're just better off. You're starting off on the right foot by doing that. And then another thing that I found interesting was a luxury limo show. People are talking about NEMT. I mean, how crazy is that? That never happened back in the day. And you mentioned TTA before. That used to be the TLPA, Taxi Limousine Paratransit Association. They changed their name to TTA. It's an over 100-year-old organization. I've been going to their shows since 2014. Again, it's migrating. You talk to a lot of taxi operators. They'll have their badge on, Joe's Taxi, whatever it might be called. And you're like, how's taxi business? And they're like, we just don't want to change the name and go through that rigmarole, but we're doing more NEMT than taxi now, So it's interesting to see how these mainstays in the industry, taxi, luxury, limo, all of that are really waking up to the opportunities and the needs with NEMT, especially in a lot of different areas. They're far, far underserved. So again, there's a lot of opportunity out there. And shout out to Sam Nirav. I mean, I appreciate you mentioning his name. Again, we're here to talk to anybody out there and give them some of our perspective and professional advice. And if they buy from us, then we're doing our jobs. But if we're not, as long as they come away from the conversation more educated and feeling like they got something out of it, then again, we're happy, and we are truly doing our jobs with that too. I'm curious about the stretcher business, Larry. Can you speak about that a little bit? Where did you see the need? I know you haven't implemented it yet. You do have the vehicles. Thank you again. But were people asking you about it? Were you made aware of kind of the trip costs, being advantageous to the business? How did that all start?
So when we first started, the reason we have had, I won't use the phrase shied away from it, but put it on hold for the moment, was because we realized as we were getting up and newer, stretcher vehicles are going to require two people. Mm-hmm. And there's not near as many stretcher pickups for NEMT, but we realized at the beginning that it was more ambulance type, setups and, where people would get picked up. But in listening to brokers and listening to, hospital discharges and you realize there's more stretchers than you think.
Mm-hmm.
And they do pay like 4 times the amount of money that wheelchairs do. So again, the reason I just hadn't started yet was because I really needed to get the business, the whole understanding of the business down first. Now that we've done that, it now seems to be the right progression for us to move on to another area that we're already, and that's why I bought from you, John, the 2 vans that do wheelchairs and they do stretcher and whatnot, because investors also a big stretchers is a big investment, because a gurney itself is not inexpensive.
No.
And
Right.
so you not only are getting, the vehicle, but then you're, getting the stretcher. And like I said, you're using 2 people to do it. But again, it depends. I mean, if you're only doing 1 trip a day or a couple of trips, is there money in it compared to a lot of the higher number of trips that are more wheelchair or ambulatory? Obviously, ambulatory is the largest percentage, wheelchair second, and then stretcher would be third. But there is a need out there. So if it integrates, because we already have the vehicles, which is why we did this, it's not as big of an investment now. We already have the vehicles, and really all we need, we have the people too. All we need now is going to be the stretcher, which again, going to the different conferences, we know there's people set up there that supply them and whatnot. And I'll get more information, because I understand there's wheelchairs out there now that, wheelchairs that become stretchers. And not only are they fully, transforming, but they only need 1 person because of the way they're made. So that is of interest as well. And so we may very well be going down that path very soon.
Shout out to the Traversa for my
Yeah, I was
friends
gonna
in
say.
Florida, right? Yeah.
Shout out to Ed Bandus and Dave.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Great guys, awesome product. Real quick, you didn't say the words exactly, but 2 words come to my mind that we talk to our customers about. And I think, as NEMT grows in various markets, you have to stand out, right? So the diversification of your product offerings is vital to growth. And also having that versatility, like you said, with the vans that do both wheelchair and stretcher, right? You kind of have a catch-all, if you will, and those vehicles could kind of pick up a variety of different jobs, throughout the day. So again, when we talk to our customers, it's like, hey, let's look at something that's more versatile. Let's look at other ways for you to have revenue streams. In terms of stretchers, by the way, another thing I've heard from some of our customers is long distance stretcher rides are very much sought after, and it can be quite lucrative. So great stuff. I love it.
Which is actually part of the reason we are now considering, because we've heard the same. And we did actually have someone reach out to us one day, said we need a stretcher vehicle to take someone to Texas. And we didn't have the stretcher. I don't think we even had the van yet. So we really couldn't do it. But, you got to think about the amount of money they're going to pay you to do that is extraordinary. It probably pays for the vehicle for a month practically. So it doesn't take a lot of good trips and whatnot to do it, which is why we're running the numbers to see exactly what kind of a break even would be. But it's not necessarily totally break even. It's just your extra expense of, the having, in this case, just the stretcher itself. We already have the van, and you guys outfitted it already with the antlers and whatnot to be able to, put in the stretchers. So we're there, we're getting there, and we're close. And so this coming month of 2 conventions should be probably what kind of gets me going on it. So
Yeah. Awesome.
but we have enjoyed it. It is different, and again, it's a different business. You learn a lot, and we've actually seen a lot of fraud too, that from predecessors. And so I think there was just, again, it goes back to the same thing I said earlier, do it right, and people will take notice.
Yeah.
Y'all have a great team all the way around.
Appreciate that, man.
Everyone's there to help everyone. That's what I've found out. So
yeah,
and
that's coming from where we came from prior. That is one thing that I really take pride in with this organization is it feels like a family. It's still a family-owned business. We were Creative Bus Sales before 40 years, family-owned still. We all just kind of take care of each other, and there's no egos. We're just here to just do our thing.
How Bambi? Is it time for me to tell more about Bambi yet?
Sure, why not?
No pregnant pauses. Here we go. Actually, truthfully, I did meet you guys at the same time, and Nirav, we had drinks last year at the NEMT, and I didn't know him from anybody. And he kept saying, come over, see a demo, come over, see a demo. But I was overwhelmed with seeing everything at the time, and I did not do a demo there at the show. I did go to set one up, later, but still we didn't. I was so busy trying to get up and running that, we weren't ready to pull the plug on which software we were doing. Till I said to Nirav, I said, as soon as you're you're integrated with these companies, let me know. And I got that call. He said, look, we're there with so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. We can do this now. And I said, that's all you had to say. I did the demo then, and it took them a whopping 20 minutes to show me the whole demo. It was that simple. And I know there's a broker today that literally put out, tell us about who you use, because they're going to start some API integration. And the first thing I sent out back in 60 seconds was, I use Bambi. I only recommend Bambi. They were simple. They were polite. They were knowledgeable. And the best part, it does 90% of the work for you. And that way I can concentrate on doing payrolls and stuff like that. And, but it really has come across as a really superior software to many we have seen. And believe me, I was coming off the heels of one that I was totally not enchanted with.
Well, sounds like a wrap. I think we can end the podcast recording right there. Right, John?
Yeah, that's mission accomplished.
I mean, I probably never told you, but the day we got started with Bambi, one of my dispatchers, my senior, manager, somehow deleted the whole entire grid on us the night before we were starting on Bambi for the next day.
Wow.
And here it is, 9 o'clock at night. I'm panicking because you have drivers that be up at 2, 3 in the morning, and it's 9 o'clock at night, who don't know their trips anymore because they got wiped off of their apps. I got a hold of Nirav. 9 o'clock at night, we assembled everyone onto a Zoom call, and within 30, 45 minutes, we had it all fixed. And and it takes that's one of the stories, and I could even tell it on another podcast or in person, but it's a story we'll always remember. It's he himself.
That was such a fun night. That was such a fun night, Larry. Got the adrenaline pumping.
It did, and did. Good thing you're on West Coast time.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So it does come in handy. So,
Oh man.
but that was my first experience, and look, we got it going, and it's been uphill from there. So,
We have to do this at the end of every one.
Yes, you have to do it.
run, Bambi, run. And boy, that's a common phrase in our office now.
Model 1, we go first, and Run Bambi Run, and Emerald Coast, they're the best.